Hey guys, it's James here from eBassGuitar. In today's bass guitar lesson, I'm going to show you 5 legendary Queen bass riffs as originally played by the incredible John Deacon. If this sounds good, make sure you check out this lesson all the way to the end. Hey guys, it's James here from eBassGuitar, and in today's bass guitar lesson, I'm going to show you how to play 5 legendary Queen bass riffs as originally played by the incredible John Deacon. This is the 5th part in our Legendary Riff series. So if you enjoy this lesson and this is your first time on the eBassGuitar YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel using the red button, which is somewhere around this screen, because we release a lesson just like this every single week. So back in 2006, I was lucky enough to get asked to dep or sub for the incredible British bass player Neil Murray, who's most well known for his work with the band Whitesnake. At the time, he was working on the West End Queen production of the show We Will Rock You. And it was that moment when I absolutely fell in love with John Deacon's bass playing, and I've adored it ever since. So what I want to do is show you 5 legendary bass riffs from that show using the original music here. This is the pad that I used for about 4 or 5 years afterwards on both the West End and the UK tour of this show. So let's give you a taster of what we're going to cover today. So guys, just before we hit the lesson content today, I want you to know there's a completely free PDF which comes with this lesson, which will show you all of the riffs that we're discussing today, written out in standard notation and tab. There's a link in the description below where you can grab your free copy. So riff number 1 is Under Pressure, and this is a prime example that fantastic riffs do not have to be complicated. So this is what it sounds like. It's a simple 1-bar riff. So let's take that apart. So it starts off with 2 8th notes like this on a D at the 12th fret on the D string. And then what we go into is another 8th note and 2 16th notes after that on beat 2. So we end up with this pattern. Like that. Ba 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 da. Then on beat 3 we play an 8th note D, and then we just literally drop down on beat 3 and to the A below like that. So we end up with this bass riff. Get that last A really, really nice and short, and that's all that there is to this classic riff. So what I want to do now is show you this riff in context and then play into a little bit of the rest of the tune from the Queen show. So that was Under Pressure, and as you can hear, that single 1-bar bass line feeds into so many of the other bass lines used in this track. Also, if you want to go for that little extra piece of authenticity, why don't you try playing the bass riff with a pick too, so you can get that classic John Deacon sound. So the next riff is probably John Deacon's most iconic piece of bass playing ever, and this is the riff to Another One Bites the Dust. This was originally inspired by the chic bass line Good Times, and this is how John Deacon innovated it. So let's hear that bass line first of all. So this is a 2-bar riff. So let's take it apart. So the riff starts with 2 16th notes on beat 4 and of the bar. So we approach it like 1, 2, 3, 4, ba-da-dum, like that. And those 3 notes are an A, a G, and then an open E like that. So we play that little riff and then we go into 3 quarter notes. So it sounds like this. And play that again. Just get that down first of all. Then the next note is placed on the last 16th note of the first bar of this riff, and then goes into 2 8th notes, which are E's. And so you end up with this sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, ba-da-da. Play that again. 1, 2, 3, 4 ba da ba, like that. So let's put the first two phrases of this riff together. So it's 3 4 ba da dum bum bum ba da ba, like that. And again 3 4 ba da dum bum bum ba da ba. Then the last three notes are simply an eighth note and two 16th notes, and the notes to that are a G, an open E, and an A, like that. So let's put that together. Ba ba da, ba ba da. So let's put all three parts of this riff together, and we end up with this 3 4 ba da dum bum bum ba da. And just get really comfortable looping that round. So let's hear what this sounds like in context, and then I'll take it into some of the rest of the bass lines which are used in this song, so you can see what it sounds like in context. So the next riff we're going to look at is the riff from Fat Bottom Girls. This was one of my all-time favourite bass lines from the show, and this was the moment in my career where I really discovered the D extender, or tuning the bass or the bottom string down to a D. So on this bass I've got a little lever here where I can detune the E down to a D, and this really works well because also the guitars in Fat Bottom Girls tune their bottom string down to a D. So we end up with this. So we end up with this much lower fat D sound, and this string really responds very, very differently to a 5-string bass, I found, and has a lot more of a floppy sort of nature to it. So you end up with this bass line going. And you can hear John Deacon doing this an awful lot, and this is the foundation to the bass line here. So what he's doing is literally playing this and then sliding up to the D octave there and then back down again. So try that, detune your bass down by a whole step and just see how the string responds differently. It's a fantastic feel. So what I'm going to show you now is the bass line to verse 2. I'm going to show you 2 bars of this. John Deacon plays quite a lot of variations on this, but I feel like this is the coolest part of this bass line. So let me show you and take it apart. It sounds like this. So let's take that apart. So it starts off with a D, and then on the last 16th note of the first beat, we slide up, or we'll play another D, and slide into that D octave there on the second beat. So we slide into it, and then come back out again like that. So that is the first 2 beats. And then halfway through the third beat, we play a C, and then we play 2 16th notes on the fourth beat, which are a D and an A, like that. So we end up with this phrase. So 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and then on the last 8th note, we play the 3rd fret on the E string, which is that note there. Ordinarily that would be a G note, but because we've detuned, it now becomes an F. So we end up with this sound. So again, so 1 2 3, 1 2 3, like that. So it's a really cool phrase. So let's try that first bar. So we end up with this. Now let's put the second bar in. The first 2 beats remain the same, so it's this. And then on the third beat, we have this phrase here, which is C, A, and then the F at the 3rd fret there. And then on the bang on the 4th beat, we play the open D, like that. So we end up with this phrase here. So just practice these little 2-beat phrases in isolation and then put the whole thing together. So this is the 2 bars looped. It's a fantastic sound using that open D string. So let's hear that bass line in context and some of the other bass lines used in Fat Bottom Girls. So that's Fat Bottom Girls. So if you love the sound of the drop D, make sure you check out the hip shot extender so you can easily drop your E string down to a D string if you're using a 4-string bass. Also, if you're enjoying this lesson and want to start pushing your bass guitar playing forward, make sure you jump over to eBassGuitar.com and check out the Bass Lab Plus. The Bass Lab Plus is a full step-by-step program designed especially for beginner to intermediate guitar players, which teaches you songs and bass skills just like these so you can push your bass playing forward. So if you've always dreamt of joining a band, playing at a jam session, rocking out with the worship team on a Sunday morning, or just playing your favorite tracks along to YouTube at home really well, make sure you jump over to eBassGuitar.com and check out the Bass Lab Plus. You can join free today with a 14-day trial. There's a link in the description below. So bass riff number 4 is the 4-bar bass line from One Vision, which sounds like this: 3, 4. So let's take this apart bar by bar. So this is in the key of D. So we start off with a D at the 5th fret. And what we do is we just play the D and slide off like this, like that. And then we play a C sharp and go back to a D. The C sharp is placed on beat 3 and of the bar, and the D is placed on beat 4 and of the bar. And then we play the next D on the first beat of the next bar. So we end up with this sound. And that is our basic rhythmic framework that works throughout the whole of the song. Then we move on into the second bar of the riff. So we have the D on the first beat of the bar, and then we go to a B to a C. That B is placed on beat 3 and the C is placed on beat 4 and then that lands on us on a C on the first beat of the next bar. So we end up with this sound. Like that. So let's put those first 2 bars together. Then we approach a B note and we play the B on beat 2 and of the bar and then square in the middle of beat 3. So we end up with this, so like that, dunk, ba bam. And then we approach the C on beat 1 of the next bar using a note on beat 4 and of the previous bar. So we end up with this, like that, dunk, ba bam, like that. And then there's this little cool pattern on beat 4 which sounds like this. Like that. So let's take that apart. So that is C, B, C, C sharp, like that. Da 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 da. And then halfway through the third beat we play a D like that. Da 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 ba, da 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 ba. And then right at the end of the bar, we can play another 8th note to bring us back round to the beginning of the phrase. So this is what the whole 4-bar phrase sounds like. Bum. Don't forget, this is all written out in the free PDF which comes with this lesson. So let's play it with the drum track now, and then I'm going to play the riff and then break into some of the other bass lines which are used in One Vision. So riff number 5, this had to be in there, and it's the legendary rock outro to Bohemian Rhapsody, which happens directly after the choral a cappella section in the middle. And there's this 4-bar bass riff which works directly with the guitar part, which sounds like this. This is really quite a workout on the fingers, and it shows how good John Deacon was technically. This is a great exercise also for developing the 1 finger per fret technique. So let's take it apart bar by bar. So this starts on E flat like this, and then drops down to a G and then an A. So this is the first 2 beats, bar, 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 like that. So this starts on an E flat. So let's take apart the first 4 notes of the first bar. So those notes are an E flat, and then a G, which is placed just before the second beat, and then directly in the middle of the second beat is the A flat, and then directly on the third beat is the B flat like this. So we end up with this. So just get that to begin with. So get the fingering right, try and be really disciplined to use one finger per fret. And then the last three notes of that bar are a C just at the end of the third beat, and then directly on the fourth beat we have these two 16th notes which are a D and an E flat like that. So we have number 3, ba-da-da, da-da-da. So to put those together, ba-da-da-da-da-da, just do it again. And then going into the second bar of the riff, we go, the first half of it is the same, exactly the same thing, but we end up with these triplets on beat 3, which sound like this. So we're dividing the note into 3. So this is the third beat, and then that lands on the fourth beat, 1, 2, 3, 1, like that. So this is the second bar. So to put those first two bars together. Brilliant. And then the third bar is exactly the same as the first bar. And then what we do is we shift the pattern up a whole step. So we go up to an F like this. And then it's exactly the same phrase as in the second bar, but up a whole step. So it's like that. And when we're those triplets on the third and fourth beat. Okay, so to put the whole 4 bars together. Brilliant. So take that apart really slowly. It's quite a workout on the left hand. If you can play that well, you know you've got really good technique going on. So let's put it in context with the drum track, and then I'm going to play into the rest of the outro from Bohemian Rhapsody from the show We Will Rock You. So guys, that's the end of today's bass guitar lesson. If you've enjoyed this lesson, make sure you download the completely free PDF so you can see all of the riffs we've discussed today written out in standard notation and tab. There's a link in the description below. Also, if you're looking to push your bass guitar playing forward and learn all of the most important skills beginner to intermediate bass players need, make sure you jump over to eBassGuitar.com and check out the Bass Lab Plus. There's a link in the description below where you can join free today with a 14-day trial. Cheers, I've been James from eBassGuitar, and I'll catch you next time.